The Price of Renewal by Austin Buffington. Chapter 1. From death come life. Reverend Aldenor's voice resonated through the small candlelit chapel. From death come life, repeated the unified chorus of voices from the pews. Anna Wyndlith displayed her rebellion in an act of silence, her lips glued together as her family and friends joined in reciting the ritual chant of the Covenant of Renewal. She hated this part, the part where all the people she loved blindly engaged in the rituals of a hokey, dying religion. Anna wriggled uncomfortably in the hard chapel pew that she had spent so much of her life in. Her thumb traced the rough, chiseled wood where she had used a sharp stone to carve her name when she was young. There was a time when Anna loved coming here. As a child, she would come to the chapel 2, sometimes 3 times a week. She would join her friends as they partook in activities and learned from their scriptures. She recalled the joy of the regular gatherings, laughter echoing against the chapel's walls. It had always been such a pleasant time, but now she could only stew in her mind, thinking of ways to speak up and help the others to see the falsity of their beliefs. Yet still she remained silent. Praise to Saranath, the chorus of voices declared. Exalt the bringer of life's breath. The Reverend, one half of his slender face highlighted from the glow of flickering candles, began reading from the Tome of Vitality, that damned book. How much of its passages had Anna memorized throughout her life as Reverend Aldenor read them aloud? Far more than she cared for. And now she was hearing them again, in one ear and out the other, because her mind was too preoccupied ruminating over all the wisdom shared with her by her mentor, Galdor. I must speak up, Anna thought, but they never listen, always so closed off to anything that opposes their misplaced beliefs. So, Anna continued to remain silent, folding her arms together to shield herself from the cool breeze that was carried through the open chapel windows. Let us raise our hands in worship for our Lord Saranath, the Reverend announced, raising his own in demonstration. The sleeves of his immaculate white robe slid down his forearms as he did so. As one, the congregation raised their hands toward the dark mahogany ceiling, palms facing upward in submission to their God. Anna's arms remained folded, her hands firmly planted on her biceps. While her peers participated in the ancient ritual, Anna's eyes were drawn to a banner hanging on the wall at the far end of the chapel, just behind the Reverend and the altar. She began to trace the symbol of the covenant with her vision, a fully grown tree adorned with a dense emerald crown of leaves. At the bottom of the tree, its roots were exposed, decaying, and retracing towards the stump. Anna began to forget about her distrust as she was drawn into the comforting promise of hope emanating from the symbol. She had always loved that tree. As another harmonious chant swelled around her, Anna felt a sudden weight. She moved her gaze slightly to the left, her heart sinking at the sight of Reverend Aldenor's piercing glare directed right at her. His eyes, normally warm and loving, now carried an intensity that silenced her thoughts and brought her back to the moment like a slap in the face. Anna, her mother hissed next to her, followed by a real slap to her arm. Why are ye not participating in the ceremonial rites? You know that I do not believe in your God and his practices, mother, Anna whispered back. At least act as if ye do. With obvious reluctance, Anna slowly raised her hands, mirroring that of the rest of the congregation, and the chapel fell silent. Upon completing the quiet moment, a frigid breeze swept into the chapel, carrying with it the familiar earthly scent of the village farms. Heads began to turn towards the open doors as Jeb Hillstead and his wife Alicia, the most prosperous farming family in Oakenwood village, slowly made their way down the center aisle, carrying one of the young piglets from their stock. Jeb was a large, rugged, and hairy man with a thick beard and a bursting belly that spoke for itself about all the pints of ale that had been run through it. He looked starkly out of place in the presence of Alicia's genuine beauty. This is the worst part, Anna thought to herself. I cannot watch this happen anymore. Once more, Anna's conscience tugged at her to speak up, yet still she could not bring herself to act. The weight of her past failed attempts was working against her inner convictions. Jeb and Alicia reached the altar and placed the piglet atop the grooved tree pattern engraved in its surface. Anna could see the fear in the piglet's eyes, for it was in a new place, surrounded by people whose eyes were fixed upon it. The worst part was, Anna found it to be undeniably adorable. Despite its obvious fear, the piglet remained calm in the presence of its caregivers, its miniature snout wrinkling as it snorted and sniffed the unfamiliar aromas of the chapel. Today we present this offering to our Lord Saranath, in thanks for his gift of promised vitality, Jeb explained with hands held high as he turned to face the congregation. Join me with raised hands as Reverend Aldenor recites the sacrificial prayer. The congregation joined Jeb in once again raising their hands to the ceiling. Saranath Tholiram Eel, the Reverend began reciting in its original language the ancient prayer taken directly from the scriptures. Gorthane Thor Marika. Anna felt her stomach climb to her throat at the sight of Alicia Hillstead withdrawing the sacrificial dagger from her patchwork gown. The small, vulnerable piglet's gaze met Anna's, as if crying out in a desperate search for rescue. Wait! Anna cried out, but her fear of the consequence for her disruption weighed her voice down, causing it to be nothing more than a quiet whimper. Alicia raised the dagger high in the air, the reflection of candlelight bouncing off it in an ominous glimmer as the Reverend continued his prayer. Zalurn Thol Vekaira. No, Anna gasped, louder this time. No, don't! But her words were abruptly silenced by another smack from her mother, this time connecting with her face. As she recoiled from the blow, Anna caught a glimpse of Reverend Aldenor's wincing expression in response to the garish sight of the innocent piglet standing helplessly still underneath the shadow of its looming fate. The Reverend made a similar face during every sacrifice, and yet the sacrifices went on. Hainura Thur Vitholia, Reverend Aldenor concluded his prayer, and the glowing dagger, orange from the reflection of candlelight, swiftly made its descent toward the poor, naive piglet. Anna heard nothing else but the blood-curdling sound of sharp, cold steel shredding through the flesh of an animal that once felt loved and protected by the very people that had just attempted to end its life. But they did not. The sound was followed by an ear-piercing shriek from the pig as the knife impaled it, but missed its head by an inch. The piglet cried and flailed, attempting to flee from the skewer that held it in place. Please, stop! Anna shouted at last. We must stop this brutal practice. The congregation turned to Anna in disbelief, all eyes on her. Her parents' glares pierced into her soul with furious rage. Jeb, hearing the squeals of the struggling swine, turned to assist his wife. With one hand as large as the animal, he grabbed it and held it in place. With the other, he grabbed the knife and extracted it from the piglet's body, then forcefully drove it into its head, silencing its cries of pain. Aldenor, with caution, approached the Wyndlith family, a tear trailing down his cheek. Anna, I know the ritual sacrifices are difficult to watch. I too often struggle with this practice, but it is what we are called to do, he said in his usual calm voice. For what? Anna stood and faced the Reverend. For Saranath? For his promise of vitality? Saranath is not what ye think he is. He is evil. These rituals, these sacrifices. Ye are practicing hemocraft. Anna Wyndlith, her mother chastised, now standing as well. We are not practicing that disgraceful, forbidden blood magic. We are offering tribute to Lord Saranath as thanks for his generous blessing. You mean in exchange? Anna could not take it any longer. She loved her parents. She loved almost everyone in the chapel. But no matter how much she tried to speak up, they just wouldn't listen. Enraged, she stormed off down the center aisle in a desperate attempt to keep herself from exploding further and slammed the heavy wooden doors behind her. "I am so very sorry, Reverend," Anna's mother pleaded with her hands clasped to her chest. "She has been increasingly this way as of late. Her blasphemy is unacceptable." "I assure you it's all right, Lyra," Aldenor said, placing a hand of consolation on her shoulder. "It fills me with deep sorrow that Anna is struggling so greatly with her faith, but it is natural for many." "It be that old man Galdor of the Whispering Glade," Anna's father chimed in from behind his wife. "He fills her head with all sort of nonsense. I tried to warn her against going out there, so I did." "I am certain that's where she's headed right now," said Lyra. "She travels all the way out there, then stays for months at a time while he teaches her who knows what." Aldenor turned to face the altar as he began to feel the pulsing energy radiating from it. The blood of the swine streamed from its punctured carcass, painting the grooves of the great tree that were carved into the altar's surface red. Once again, he raised his hands and the congregation followed, feeling a rush of youthful energy entering their bodies. The air began to reek with the pungent scent of iron. Despite its invisibility, Aldenor could clearly sense the energy's aura emanating from the trail of blood and dispersing to the village folk gathered in the chapel. Most of it, however, was relocated elsewhere, undoubtedly to where Saranath saw fit. A humble priest sent on a mission by his god. A lonely thief trying to find her way in the world. A wizard's apprentice on a quest for liberation. Follow Aldenor, Naya, and Anna as they venture through Erdania and uncover the hidden truth of the Covenant of Renewal, a dying religion with a gray morality. Read the hit book, The Price of Renewal, by Austin Buffington, available on Amazon.